I think, for the sake of the good old times, we gotta give out one more chant. I don't know. It's just the first thing that popped into my mind when I pressed record. Vancouver goals scored by number 9, J.T. Miller! Okay, we can't do that anymore. He's already gone. Anyways, for the longest time as a Vancouver Canucks fan, almost every single year, I would be so excited to watch the Vancouver Canucks postseason wrap-up press conferences. It was always a big deal to get all the players and the coaches and the executives' final thoughts on the regular season. And I say regular season because most of the time in the past few years, the Vancouver Canucks, I don't know if you've noticed, they haven't qualified for the playoffs often. So the fact that this year we had the postseason press conference happen just earlier this morning, honestly, I wasn't really excited for this one at all. I just was totally not engaged. I saw a lot of folks complaining about Elias Pettersson's media availability, talking about stuff that's not too revolutionary, just kind of repeating the same old things. But what I wanted to focus on was Rick Tocchet. Because Tocchet had 2 very particular questions that I wanted to go over and read to you here. I say read because I use the AI machine to transcribe these comments and regurgitate them in a written format. It's easier for us because I can screenshot it, put it on the screen, and we can follow through what Tocchet says together. But both of these answers were clipped on the Sportsnet Twitter account. It's part of the bigger, longer conversation, of course, which is also available online, but I'll leave links in the description to these 2 Sportsnet videos. Firstly, you have Rick Tocchet talking about Elias Pettersson, and you have Rick Tocchet talking about JT Miller and Elias Pettersson. Both of these videos were transcribed. Let's dive into each of the comments here. Firstly, Rick Tocchet spoke about Elias Pettersson and what Pettersson might need to do heading into next season. Tocchet says, I think people understand. Like, Elias wants to be a great player, right? And we're here to try to help him become that great player. So, obviously, there's some things that, I gotta be careful what I say because you guys hang on to it. If I say reprogram, you guys take it to a different level. I think he'll tell you this. You know, his preparation has to get better. There's no secret. If you want to be a great player, you have to prepare, almost an obsessive type of preparation. And I think he got behind the 8 ball early. Then the expectations come, and then there's a little bit of struggle with the team, and then he could never gain traction. Right? So Tocchet, firstly, going out there and addressing the fact that his reprogramming comments did spark a pretty big rage in the Vancouver Canucks media and social media landscape. A lot of folks going out there and saying, oh, Rick Tocchet's trying to reprogram Pettersson. Pettersson's a good hockey player who grew up playing hockey his entire life and he scored 100 points. He doesn't need to be reprogrammed, Rick. Stuff like that. And I am guilty of saying things like that too. It was very apparent when we made YouTube videos about that. But still, Tocchet does go out there and say, yeah, like, I don't want to reprogram him to the extent that you guys in the media were making it seem like I did, but he has to prepare. He has to use this time in the offseason to be better, and he has to be obsessed with it. Tocchet says this, you know, he has to, we've talked about that, move his feet, shoot the puck, you know, change angles, you know, and you know me, I'm an honest guy. He's got to practice better. You have to practice better. And those things that he's learning, do I think he'll do those things? I do. I really do. Like, I think I can bank on him taking this information, going away for 4 months, and make sure that he has a plan, and the plan has to change. You know, I'm not sure he can train the same way, or, you know, with the team. I don't know who he's trained with. I do kind of know, but I don't. To be honest with you, that's got to change. And so, Tocchet is expressing some faith here in EP40 that Pettersson can prepare better. And that was one of the biggest aspects as to why this season fell apart, was because, hey, like, Pettersson didn't really have the best offseason last year. And when you compare it to some of the other guys in the Canucks organization who did have fantastic off-seasons, it was a night and day difference in terms of the quality of the impact they had. And that just boils over into even more stuff, which we'll talk about later in this video. A reporter then asks Rick, "That's my follow-up. You can't force Pettersson to train how he trains." And then we talked last week, USA Hockey and the Quinn Hughes gang and the influence, how much Quinn has improved his shot, his strength. A lot of what Elias has to do is strength-related. So how much influence do you think you can have in that regard? Tocchet replies, "Well, I think you listened. He takes some of that information, but he's also got teammates too that he's got to inspire too, that are doing stuff too. Tyler Myers, he trains really hard. He had a great year for us. Quinn Hughes, what they're doing, I think the inspiration of those guys can help Pettersson. Kiefer Sherwood shooting 1 million pucks this summer has a career high because of those little things. I think, can Pettersson use his teammates as inspiration?" We'll see whether or not that does happen in the offseason, but of course, this is only one of 2 videos that I wanted to dive into of Tocchet answering stuff on the presser, because obviously you clicked on this video to hear Tocchet's comments on Pettersson and Miller, because Pettersson training in the offseason is one thing, Pettersson fighting with Miller in the season is another. The question here from the reporter, which was a very fantastically worded question by the way, "We've known for a while that Petey and JT were not tight, but to see it blow up the way it clearly did, I don't imagine anyone could have thought that would happen. But looking back, was there a way that could have gone differently?" Tocchet says, and this is obviously a really hard question because I'm a JT Miller fan and a Petey fan. They're both great hockey players. JT played a lot of great hockey for me. Obviously Listen, you guys know that there was some stuff there before even I got here. What level it was at? I don't know. I know that, obviously we had a really good year the year before, and they had really good years. So you never think the smoldering is gonna turn up. Did it get uncomfortable? Yeah, a lot of meetings, a lot of things. Could have something been different? I hear a lot of people on the sidelines, if I was coaching or if I was on podcasts, they gotta go to dinner and they gotta fight it out. Tocchet says, you don't think we tried all of that stuff? It just didn't work out. And I know everyone's looking for a bad guy. I don't know if there's a bad guy in the thing. It just didn't work out. And at that point, it had to be resolved. Like Jim said. And that's what happened. It's unfortunate because would I not want JT Miller in my lineup? 100%. But at that time, it just couldn't work. So Tocchet, look, let's just say this. At the beginning, when he says, "Oh yeah, I'm a JT Miller fan and a Petey fan," he takes a big pause before saying, "Yeah, I'm also a Petey fan, by the way. I like this guy too." It was very obvious from the way that Tocchet talked about Miller the entire year and in this context that JT Miller is a Rick Tocchet guy. The way JT plays is the way that Rick Tocchet wants all of his guys to play. The way Miller responds to Tocchet was obviously better than how Pettersson responded to Tocchet this year in terms of the quality of on-ice gameplay. And that's even with JT Miller having a particularly bad stretch this season with the Canucks, where he wasn't great defensively and he was giving up those turnovers and he was being a little bit more lackadaisical compared to last year. The team culture of losing and Pettersson not carrying his weight, I think probably did play a part into that, but still, Rick Tocchet going out there and saying, yeah, we tried a lot of stuff, a lot of meetings and a lot of things here. People are saying that they gotta go to dinner. You don't think we tried that? I don't think that Tocchet is implying that Miller and Pettersson actually did fight it out, but they probably did go to dinner, I guess, from the way that Tocchet's talking about it. Maybe these two guys didn't play PlayStation together, but they tried everything that was possible here. Outside of maybe a legitimate fistfight like Brian Burke was going out there and saying they should do. There's no bad guy, Tocchet says. It just didn't work out. And he even says here at the end, I would want JT Miller on my team, 100%. But it couldn't work, and that's the ultimate verdict here, I guess. There isn't really anything else that we could dive into in terms of what broke down, or specifically when things broke down. Tocchet doesn't even have that timeline. There was stuff before he even got here. So, with that in mind, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Rick Tocchet speaking out about Elias Pettersson needing to train better in the offseason, and speaking out about the Pettersson and Miller feud. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on, and bye.